Adeni Yukunu is an international journalist. He joins me from Chicago for this Middle East escalation, while Professor Iyala Peter Said, a policy expert, joins me from Philadelphia. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight. Let's start from the very beginning, Adeni. While the U.S. and Iran were engaged in negotiations previously, did you see the situation degenerating to this level? Although the Tehran foreign minister said on Saturday that it knew the worst would happen.
Well, let's understand that since the romance of Venezuela and Iran by China, and the fact that China appears to be gaining certain levels of obvious ascendancy in global economic power as well as military stature, the United States appear to not want to countenance anybody who comes within, according to them, the Monroe's Doctrine hemisphere, which of course are triggered what happened in Venezuela. But if you look at Iran, of every country in the world that one would describe as purchaser of the black gold, China appears to be one of the very good customers of Iran. And apart from that, which you're talking about socioeconomic power, you also want to talk about what Iran has had its hand in for many years, which has to do with the sponsorship of terrorism. You look at Hezbollah, you look at the Shiites, particularly the Zagzaki movement in Nigeria, and many other countries of the world. So when the negotiations started, and over the years they've been talking about in the first place, closing certain uranium program, then you also hear repeatedly the late Khomeini say, death to Israel, death to America, and the fact that his goal or his dream is to see that the United States of America doesn't exist. These things are actually concerning. So what we find happen in Iran is an accumulation of what perhaps has been considered what the U.S. doesn't feel comfortable with, and what appears to be a huge threat to the existence of Israel, which of course is part of what is going on over there. But let us also understand that away from that is the fact that intelligence brings up certain things that many persons who are followers of global policy and development do not completely have a picture of. It's also important to say that the mid-70s hold a history where certain set constituted authority of the United States of America, what you describe as the Parliament of Iran, ceased to exist because of supposedly or outrightly the intervention of the FBI, which has resulted in what we have today in Iran. So you look at the entire picture and you see that it is not just one reason that has prompted what is happening in Iran today, but you have to also consider that the country itself has a lot of human rights abuses that have become so loud and beyond what we have. So indeed, what we have today, or what we've had since over a couple of days ago, would appear to be a response and a determination of the U.S. government to see that certain things are discontinued. Okay. I also must emphasize, okay, let me listen, please.
Yes, please. Yeah. And so I can bring in Professor Peter Said. Your thoughts on likely implication of President Trump's refusal to rule out sending ground troops into Iran? What would it have on diplomatic efforts to de-escalate the ongoing situation in the Middle East?
I think that there's a lot of dissatisfaction in the United States as to why we went to war. That has not been defined properly, and what the immediate threat to the United States was that prompted this attack on Iran. Yes, Iran is a rogue nation, but so is not Korea. You do not go on to war out of choice without stating clearly what the threat is to America and getting a Congress to approve. The implications of where we are is that there's no clear objective to this war. Every time you listen to the president, he changes the target. Is it regime change? Is it wiping out the leaders of Iran? Is it destroying their missiles? Is it destroying their capability to produce nuclear weapons? When you told us in June that you had actually obliterated the ability to manufacture a nuclear bomb. So there's a lot of tension in America. There's a lot of uncertainty. And the death toll to American soldiers is beginning to rise. At the last count, there are 7 dead Americans. As the death toll rises, there will be questions asked and people trying to justify the cost of this war.
All right, Adeni, in this, what measures can Nigeria take to ensure the safety of its citizens and interests? And how does the U.S. security alert to its citizens in Nigeria reflect the global nature of this crisis?
Well, if you look at the fact that the United States of America has issued warning to its citizens in Nigeria regarding what is going on, we understand that Nigeria is not a country in isolation as far as the incidences in Iran is concerned. Many years before now, especially with the administration of the former governor of Kaduna State, we know what Sheikh El-Zakzaki was to the people of Kaduna and to the entire Southwest, and what his followers were always doing anytime they had their procession. So that tells you that Kaduna, which is a very important state in that region of the country, if it is unsettled, it's enough to unsettle a whole lot of things as far as the country is concerned, because we know what normally happens when violence bursts out in that part of the country. And I think that the Nigerian government should be very serious, because I've seen processions by Nigerians who are carrying certain pictures of the late Khamenei and many other people as they so desire, pulling the flag of the United States of America on the ground in their procession. I think that those things are reflective of the mindset of the people of this country, especially northern Nigeria, and bearing in mind that that particular procession or the protest they are having, which has not turned violent, could become something that the government may not be able to manage in that region. It therefore behoves Mr. Jundi Jisu to be very strong. Yes, statements have been issued. There has to be deployment of people to stop that protest right now, because the issue in the Middle East is not something that really affects us. If you look at the position of Nigeria on global geography, we're quite far with that. But if you look at the connection of the North to certain religious affiliation or affiliate bodies and the sentiments of that region, you'd understand that there's a tendency. Nigeria is a Sunni Muslim practicing nation. We're talking about the Shiite practicing region of the world. But Islam is a religion that unites everybody, especially those who share that sentiment. Apart from that, I've also seen people that are supposedly leader of thought who are making comments regarding the situation in Iran. While I respect people's opinion, I think that we should not make room to accommodate unintelligent postures, as this doesn't make things good. Then let's understand at the same time that we're talking about a connection to terrorism here. The government must understand what its position is and not allow people to share certain sentiments that are not really effective to us. We need to understand that Nigeria has to stand on it. Yes, please.
Yeah,
yes, please.
Fair point you're making. I do hate to interrupt because you're making such valid points, but we're time pressed. And there's something very important I would also like to ask Prof. So I read earlier that that this crisis is likely to have Nigerians pay for more prices for oil. And then just a few minutes ago, in one of our programs here, Politics HQ, one of the economic analysts is saying that economically, this might be, in terms of the, I'm talking about in terms of the Strait of Hormuz, that economically, this might bring more economic gains for Nigeria in general, but that the people will have to pay a little more. I don't know if you understand that, and you could perhaps explain, because I'm sure those who were watching were as confused as I was.
So there's a smart man once said, never waste a crisis. As at today, oil prices are beginning to go up. The Iranian government has closed effectively the Strait of Hormuz, which transports about 20% of the world's oil supply. That will create a scarcity, and so oil prices will go up. I think it's incumbent on Nigeria to take advantage of that and raise more money, but it's a question of what do we do with the money. Fortunately, Nigeria is an oil-producing country, and more recently we've begun to refine our own oil use. So really, that price increase externally should not affect us much. If the government plays its cards well, we should come out on the positive of the price rises, is just beginning to rise. I think the light crude quoted today is up to $87 a barrel from $67. So there's going to be some windfall. One of the ships through the Strait of Hormuz was bombed today by Iran, effectively closing that. So I expect that oil availability to the general world will drop. Iran produces 1.6 million barrels of oil a day and transports to China. China will look for somewhere else to fill that up. So I think we can take advantage of that. What we do with the money is a different matter altogether.
So much to talk about, but we'll just have to leave it there. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for obliging us tonight.